Welcome everyone. Welcome to everyone joining this Growing Compassionate Hearts Conference. We'll just allow time for people to join us. It's on the hour at the moment. Welcome everyone. Amazing to see Niv here, and our hearts go out to you, Niv, and all in Israel, to all involved with Dreamers. Really, really thinking about you all at the moment. So welcome. Welcome everyone. It's just wonderful to connect with this global community for this Growing Compassionate Hearts Conference. I invite you to take a few breaths to just arrive here. Let's all take 3 spacious breaths together. So this conference has been organized by the Foundation for Developing Compassion and Wisdom to share programs, advice, experience to inspire us all to teach children and young people about compassion, ethics, and wisdom. And the theme we will explore during this particular session is building resilience and positive minds. And questions are invited, so please write them in chat, and we aim to answer all questions during the panel discussion. So welcome first to Susie Adams in Northern Ireland, who will share methods she uses to support families to develop resilience, especially when there is neurodiversity in the family. And I'm looking forward to doing some laughter yoga with Susie. So over to you, Susie, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Wendy, and hello. I'm feeling both excited and slightly nervous to be sharing my key learning from my life, career, and obviously from the benefits of laughter yoga and self-care. I was born in Northern Ireland. I grew up under the shadow of the conflict and experienced how destructive it was for children and families. At the age of 17, I left home and moved to London. I got a really good job in the Family Court Welfare Service in London. And then after 10 years, began that journey of realizing that judges made decisions on behalf of families, and really what we needed to do was to help families to make their own decisions. So I moved into community mediation. In community mediation, again, that took me on an amazing journey of dealing with conflict and helping people to have their voice. During that time, I was asked to project manage a scheme for Holocaust survivors who had obviously had experience in the work camps and concentration camps. And they talked to young people in secondary schools about their experiences. And then I debriefed the young people on what they'd heard and helped them to think about social responsibility and the big word change, because we don't teach change. So that, obviously, that experience had it learned me so much. It had so much of an effect on me as a person, and I was really fortunate to be able to drive the Holocaust survivors to the schools. So in our connections with each other and building our relationships, I would have asked the Holocaust survivors what made a difference to them. And what they said was it was things like the kindness of someone giving them some food. It was someone giving them a hug. So I started to think about how can I pass this learning on to children, and came up with Ketchup. So the Ketchup plan is what I thread into discussions that I have with young people. So Ketchup, as we know, is a great accompaniment for children and for food. So the K is for kindness, the E is for empathy, the T is for thoughtfulness, C is for compassion, H is for honesty, U is for understanding, and P is for positivity. And I realized that through discussions with children, we can help them to think about what their positive qualities are, and also to really help children to then acknowledge and to be able to verbalize others' positive qualities. So after I then returned back home again, I've been in a position as a family support foster carer. The scheme is to support parents and families who the children have been identified as being on the periphery of the care system. So the idea of the project is to prevent the children from going into the care system. Again, over the past 8 years, the learning that I've learned from the families, and I use the term walking beside. So it's very important for me to walk beside others with the experiences that they're going through. So this role has, again, taught me lots about the difficulties that different families experience, and threading the Ketchup thinking into discussions with not only the children, but also with the parents and carers. And I want to just give you a bit of a story on a family of a boy who was neurodivergent. So we'll call this boy Bob. Bob had or has ADHD and ASD, and he had a very difficult relationship with his mother. So I worked with his mother to help her to understand how to parent a child who was neurodivergent. Bob, on this one particular occasion, Bob had basically the relationship had broken down, and it had been agreed that it would be best if Bob came to stay at my family home. So my role is to mentor the parents through the week, is to offer family support, and is to offer children a short break in my home at the weekend. So I went to get Bob, and on the way back, on the journey back, Bob said his feet were really sore. So I said, well, Susie has a basin, and what we can do is we can put your feet and make bubbles, and I can show you how you can massage your feet. And I realized that what he was trying to get through to me was the pain that he was in. So we got home, and he got the basin of lovely bubbles. And I could almost just see the stress leave his body, because it was very kind of nurturing and therapeutic words that I wasn't asking about the conflict that he was in, but I was wanting just to find out how he was, and was it nice? Was the temperature of the water nice? Was the bubbles nice? And how to take care of himself. So that was lovely. It was my daughter's birthday. So I said, Bob, we're going to have to go to the shops to buy my daughter some presents. And Bob said, oh, that's great. Can I buy Tammy a present? And I said, yes, of course you can. What would you like to buy? At the time, my daughter was 16, and he said, I'd like to buy her a dress. And we were going to Tesco's, so I didn't at the time think that a dress in Tesco's was what my daughter wanted. So I said, well, we don't really know what sort of a dress she would like, but is there anything else? He said, yes, I think I'd like to buy her some perfume. So we went down the deodorant aisle and he smelt all the perfumes and picked this one perfume that he decided was the deodorant for my daughter. And what was really lovely was on the way back, and obviously I had threaded the ketchup qualities into our conversations. And on the way back, Bob said, Susie, and I said, yes, Bob. He said, am I just the kindest boy that you've ever met in your life for buying your daughter, considering it was my money, buying your daughter a deodorant? And I said, Bob, you are the kindest boy that I have ever met. And in that moment, I realized that giving him that opportunity to be kind was so important. And it helped to deal with his trauma. So that was, for me, that was a really lovely experience. Obviously with laughter yoga, a lot of what I do can be very intensive, supporting families, and particularly supporting families whose children are neurodivergent. And in 2019, I decided that I needed to look for something that was going to maybe bring a bit of laughter into my life, which I went on the course and it was amazing. So I'd like to do just a bit of laughter yoga practice. Now, the laughter yoga sessions that I have on Zoom, they are an hour long. So this is a very small snippet of the journey or the experience that we do have in the Laughter Yoga Club. So I'm going to be very technical and share. Can everybody see that? Oh, okay. Yeah, super. So here we go. Susie's Laughter Yoga. Laughter truly is the best medicine. What is laughter yoga? So laughter yoga is a unique concept where anyone can laugh for no reason without relying on humor, jokes, or comedy. We initiate laughter as an exercise in a group, but with eye contact and childlike playfulness, it soon turns into real and contagious laughter. The reason we call it laughter yoga is because it combines laughter exercises with yoga breathing. This brings more oxygen to the body and the brain, which helps us to feel more energetic and healthy. The concept of laughter yoga is based on a scientific fact that the body cannot differentiate between fake and real laughter. And if done with willingness, one gets the same physiological and psychological benefits. It was started by a medical doctor, Dr. Madan Kataria from India, with just 5 people in a Mumbai park in 1995. And it is fast sweeping the world. And today there are thousands of laughter clubs in more than 65 countries. So Dr. Madan Kataria explains that laughter has 2 sources, one from the body and one from the mind. So adults tend to laugh from the mind. We use judgments and evaluations about what's funny and what isn't. Children laugh much more frequently than adults, and they laugh from the body. A study of this laughter was that children laugh between 200 and 300 times a day, whereas adults at the most can laugh between 5 and 6 times a day. So we really can't leave, as adults, laughter to chance. So laughter yoga is based on cultivating your childlike playfulness. So here we go. Laughter and breathing bring you to the present, as you can't laugh and breathe in the past or future. Benefits of laughter yoga: it elevates your mood. Laughter yoga can change your mood within minutes by releasing endorphins from your brain cells, and we call that giving ourselves a dose. So the D is for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. The health benefits are laughter yoga reduces stress and strengthens the immune system. The business benefits: our brain needs 25% more oxygen for optimal functioning. It's a social connector, so the quality of our life depends upon the quality of our relationships. Laughter is a great connector of people. And laughing through challenges. Anyone can laugh when times are good. Laughter yoga teaches people to laugh unconditionally so that they can laugh even when times are hard. It provides strength in adversity, a coping mechanism to help people keep a positive mental attitude regardless of the circumstances. So here we go. The sun demands no reason to shine. Water demands no reason to flow. A child demands no reason to smile. Then why do we need a reason to laugh? So why laughter yoga? In order to get the scientific proven benefits, you need to laugh for 10 to 15 minutes. In laughter yoga, we use laugh as a form of exercise, which helps the body to gain the health benefits. Laughter yoga enables you to laugh loudly, laughing from the belly. And really interesting that babies are born breathing from the belly. But I don't know about you, sometimes when I get really stressed, I have to concentrate that I actually breathe for the last 5 minutes. So the breath travels upwards. So laughter yoga encourages the laughing from the belly. So often in social situations, this kind of laughing is not appropriate. Laughter yoga sessions create a safe place to laugh out loudly. People always need some reason to laugh. However, there are not many reasons that make us laugh. Laughter yoga enables you to laugh when there is no reason to laugh. Okay, so let's laugh, breathe, and relax together. And I'm going to stop sharing. And is this on gallery? Yay! Okay, super. So what we're going to do is, and we're working with also the breath, and obviously that can boost the gamma brain waves, bringing the monkey mind under control. In laughter yoga, there is 3 parts. But the first part is broken down into 4 sections. The second part is our laughter meditation. So normally in laughter meditation, we're very silent and we concentrate on the breath. In laughter yoga, it's the complete opposite, because we just, whatever laugh comes up for us in our laughter meditation, but we also concentrate on the breath. And then the third part, which we're not going to get around to doing, is the guided meditation. So the first part, as I said, is broken down into 4 parts. We always start off so we clap in laughter yoga. So when we think about clapping, it wakens the acupressure points, and we clap through happiness. And it also connects the body to the brain. So what we do is we start off with, and if you feel that you can, and this is it, it's trying not to judge yourself, we start off with, and you can take yourselves off mute as well. Super. So we always start off with a oh. ho, ha, ha, ha. Ho, ho, that's the start of breath work. Ho, ho, and one of the first laughter exercise that we're going to do is just to, if you can, your loudest laugh, and keep yourselves off mute because we want to hear your wonderful laughter, and also to make lots of eye contact. So the first exercise is just to think about the loudest laughter, and in laughter yoga, it until you make it. So my loudest laughter yoga, and whenever you want to, just join in. My loudest laughter yoga this morning is you're starting to trigger the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, and the endorphin, so you're giving yourself a dose. And what we do is we move into a breathing exercise. Okay. So the third part. So we stop that. We stop. And then we move into our breathing exercise. So we breathe in through the nose, we hold for 3 seconds, and we breathe out as much as we can. So it's, and we do that 3 times. So it's And then the fourth part is, like children, we congratulate ourselves. So we always go, very good.
Very good. Very good.
Very good.
Very good.
We'll do another exercise. So we always start it off with ho, ho, okay, so this laughter exercise, I want you to think of a situation that you laughed when you shouldn't have laughed. And what does that laughter sound like? So we stop that and we move into our breathing. We breathe in, hold for 3, and breathe out as much as we can. Here we go. Very good.
Very good. Very good.
Very good.
Very good.
So this exercise, we are going to, if you can, move your arms. We're going to swim in a pool of tickles. So what sort of laughter would come up for you if you swam in a pool of tickles? So and then we move into our breathing exercise. Okay. We do our very good. Very good.
Very good.
Very good. So the next part is our laughter meditation. So again, if you concentrate on your breathing, eyes opened, and it's about making lots of lovely eye contact with each other. You can close your eyes if you want to. But again, laughter meditation is about getting in touch with your own laughter. We're going to do that for about a minute. Okay.
Oh God.
That's brilliant. That is just a very small little taster of what we do in our laughter yoga Zoom clubs. Laughter meditation for me is so important because we're not laughing through judgment, but we're looking after ourselves by this creating our own laughter. So as a closure, the key points that I would like to get across is the importance of taking care of the self, the importance of working with connection, which it's been so lovely to connect with you all, listening, relationships and love and compassion. And what I've learned is not what I've taught children, but what children have taught me about the very simple things like laughter and kindness and empathy and thoughtfulness and compassion and honesty and understanding and positivity. And that's the end of my time with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susie, so
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you. I think many of us will remember Ketchup and Bubbles Bob, and for sure laughter yoga. What a wonderful introduction. What a great start to today. Thank you, Susie, so very much. And could you just quickly, because you have got a moment, could you just say what neurodivergent is, just in case there's anybody who doesn't know? Thank you.
Neurodivergent, I guess, is the labels that the medical profession. So neurodivergent is basically to do with the brain, the neuro. So the brain of children that get diagnosed with things like autism, ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, pathological demand avoidance. So basically it's the wiring in their brain. And to me, it's children that have that are neurodivergent. I really believe it's what they can teach us. And it's how we parent a child that is neurodivergent. But it's making sure if a child is neurodivergent, obviously in the education system, they have to have an individual education plan.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Susie. Really appreciate your session. And now I'd like to rejoice in the work of Gillian Watt in Scotland, who will be sharing the various tools that she uses with young people to create a positive mindset and resilience, including mindfulness, the 16G, and emotional freedom technique. Over to you, Gillian. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm not sure how I can follow that, but I'll do my best. Yes, this is definitely stepping out of my comfort zone, but when I saw the topic of today's discussions, I just felt very strongly that I wanted to come out of my comfort zone. So, good morning. Throughout my sharing with you this morning, we're going to experience some of what I share in the classroom as well. So I'm going to pop, I hope, if you can get into gallery view again, I'm going to pop myself into gallery view for now. And we're just going to wish each other good morning. And when we do that, we're going to sit strong and alert. And this is what I encourage the young people to do as well. We're sitting alert and strong. Often we're sitting cross-legged on the floor. So we talk about the core keeping us upright and strong. And then we smile at each other and say good morning, and we make eye contact again, because we talk about when we gift a smile, we get one in return, and then that ripples out. So again, if you want to unmute, feel free, but let us wish each other a good morning. So good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And you can connect. I know we can't directly connect, but good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And then we sit for a moment and we take some quiet time. And as we are sitting thinking, we think of people who maybe need an extra bit of love today. And when I talk about this in the class, you'll get maybe my puppy, you maybe get the dog that died 3 years ago, you maybe get asking for grandparents, but we also do get situations where very young children will bring up things that are going on in the world. For example, right now, there was a little boy in my class just a couple of months ago whose family was in Turkey when the disaster hit there. So it's a very special time. And what we do is we think of those people and we take our right hand, and place it where we keep our love, which is on our heart. So if you would hold people or someone who is dear to you, or a situation that is dear to our hearts, to put our hand on our heart at the moment, taking a deep breath, and it's Om. So Om. And as I do that, I always ripple my hands and I talk with the children about how that love is rippling out through the windows. And if we were all to do that, how the love would ripple across the world. So we do that every day as a starting point. There. Thank you for joining in. It's just such an important part of the way I start those sessions, because so many of the children coming in are not used to sitting still. They're not used to mindfulness, and the adults that they're working with are maybe not used to mindfulness either, and some of the ways that I'm teaching. So it takes time just to create that atmosphere. So I'm going to go back to sharing a little bit of the PowerPoint just now. So, good morning, everybody. I am Gillian. I work as Gillian Watt Wellbeing Practitioner, but I've gone back into education. I was out of education for a while and doing some supply teaching, which I love because I'm able to incorporate everything that I do in my wellbeing back in school too. So I work in groups in schools, groups in the outdoors, and I work in one-to-one situations with young people and their families as well. And what I do is really simple. It's not groundbreaking. It's not high tech. And in many ways, the tools that I'm about to share today, some of my tools that I'm going to share today, are in a way secondary to what I actually do to build resilience and create a positive mindset in schools and families. But today I will share the 3 tools that I use in my work. But first, I want to share what I think is the most important element in all of this. If I can change my screen, I can't find my, there we go. There we are, relationships. The top of my list has got to be, in everything I do, has got to be relationships. Cultivating, nurturing positive relationships with everyone. And the relationships I'm talking about are between children, with the child and the adult, in group situations, the adult to adult, and also the relationships that we have within ourselves. So my goal when I'm working with people is to create compassionate, safe, supportive spaces for young people and the adults supporting them. And on any first meeting with anyone, there's going to be anticipation, nervousness, excitement, and a multitude of other emotions and feelings, depending on the previous experience of everyone involved and those is there. So in addition to sharing my tools in schools, I do my best at all times, I'm not perfect, but to share compassion, to model resilience, and to model a positive mindset. And I find that if I smile and explain calmly and kindly what's going to happen in all the situations I work in, and then to take time to listen and to attend to any questions, there's a gradual melting. And that's with the pupils and the adults. It's with the young people and the adults. So there's a gradual melting by the end. And by the end of that first meeting, at the very least, hopefully, there's a smile in return. Because if a young person or adult knows that they're being listened to and heard, they can begin to build the trust needed in any positive relationship. So if a child is happy, and I always say it here because I feel like a lot of our adult population is missing this as well. So I do feel that when I'm in a school, I'm hopefully including the adults in everything I do. But I'll say just now the child, but it is both. If a child is happy, feels confident and has a positive attitude, he or she is going to be better placed to overcome challenges. If that child can successfully overcome new challenges in a safe, supportive, and supported setting, they'll be more likely to demonstrate resilience and a positive mindset in other situations. And you can apply that to adults too. So as a head teacher, it was very, very important to me to create a school community where positive relationships were nurtured and valued by everyone. And when I visit schools now and continue to work with the families, that approach remains with me. So if a school or a group is going to help build resilience, create a positive mindset, and grow compassionate hearts, everyone has to be on board, and that includes the adults, and that is not easy. So we're going to just flick, there we go. Children learn by imitation and example. I'm showing the shadow side. Whatever the situation, I always work with the adults who are supporting the young people encouraging and supporting them to exemplify compassion, resilience, and a positive mindset. And if I'm going into a school for a 6-week block or an 8-week block, that is a really, I often feel, insurmountable task. But I always feel that even if I create a little ripple somewhere, that it will eventually catch up. So it is always, it's not always easy, as I said. So I model the behaviours, as I said earlier, both with pupils and staff. In schools, I work directly with the school staff in one session, and I try to involve non-teaching staff too. And I also work with, or I offer a parent and family session in amongst the children's sessions as well. Because if I would like them to take on what we're learning so that they can continue at home and in school. If I'm working one-to-one with a child, I always work with the adult alone at the beginning. And there's a lot of different reasons for that, but it's important to me that I work with the adult first. So when I work in the outdoors, I create real life challenges, either asking them to use a flint to light a fire or build a den with sticks and tarpaulins. And if they can't light the fire, we don't get hot chocolate. So we have waited up to about 45 minutes for a child to actually light the fire. And it is really, really important that they are successful at that. So I have given a little bit of invisible help sometimes if things have gone on too long, but it is really important that they achieve success in that instance. And it is magical when the fire is lit. The young people I work with one-to-one setting they're more vulnerable, emotionally vulnerable. And in those situations, their challenge is often simply actually getting to our session, our appointment. So we work very slowly together. So that's a little bit of what I do. So the tools that I use are mindfulness, the Pause B. I am a trained mindfulness in schools teacher. So there's a number of different courses that I can lead in a school, depending on the age group of the children, the young people. And I've also designed a young program for from about nursery age up to around about the age of 7, where I include mindfulness, 16 guidelines, filtering through, and the tapping that I do. So that's what I'm going to share today. I'm going to now come out of share, and there we go. So I'm going to introduce you to my tools, and you are all seasoned practitioners, I know, so bear with me. But I'm going to invite you just now to join me for a tummy chest breathing practice. So with tummy chest, we have our feet flat on the floor. We feel where we're sitting, we feel our sitting bones, we're comfortably sitting. And again, we're sitting strong. We're sitting proud and strong. And I invite you to put one hand on your tummy and the other hand on your chest. And as we sit, we're just going to notice. We don't have to change anything at all. We just have to notice. We might notice that our chest is moving up or down, in or out. We might notice our tummies are moving in and out. And you might even notice that your back moves in and out when you're breathing. And every time you get distracted, just bring yourself back to your hand on your tummy and your hand on your chest. Breathing in and breathing out. There, thank you so much. You can take your hands down now, thank you. So in schools, there's a number of breathing practices like that. And in schools, we discuss how the breathing practice can help us in all sorts of different ways, including when we're having a wobble, maybe when our amygdala has sprung into action, and also when we're finding things maybe getting tricky getting to sleep. We also talk about how mindfulness enables us to notice what's happening in the moment and how it helps us to stand back and observe situations, allowing us to take time to make good choices. So I share a bit about the science behind mindfulness to brain versus mind, and we call that the team brain. And I get lots of lovely stories about how children have used the practices. There was a little boy just a few weeks ago said they'd been driving back from the west coast of Scotland, and their mum had been shouting at them from the front seat, giving them into trouble about something. And he said, I did my finger breathing and that helped. So it's good to know that they're able to then to use those skills somewhere else. If I had to choose just one tool in my whole toolkit for my life, it would be 16 guidelines. It permeates my personal and professional life. When I'm working in schools, I wouldn't say that I don't always have the time to actually introduce 16 guidelines in the way I would like to. Hopefully, now that I'm back in education a little bit more, I will be in schools in a more long-term situation. But instead, I use 16 guidelines in adult situations in schools, and allow what I am living, I suppose, to filter into the classroom. I'm beginning to share it more explicitly. But what do I do with 16 guidelines? Well, I share a card. I take a card every day. I took a card before doing this because I was quite nervous, to be perfectly honest. It was kindness, so I'm remembering that. I use 16 guidelines cards before tricky meetings, tricky situations in all sorts of different ways. It does influence everything I do. I'm going to choose a card for us, but I'm going to take in a little while. No, I won't. I'll just do it now. So I invite you just now, just to sit with the day ahead, thinking about what is coming up, this wonderful conference that's been organised, and what we have the rest of the day. And just take a moment. Oh. And it's come out as generosity. So we're going to hold generosity in our hearts for the rest of today, or I invite you to. If you can hear my dog barking, it's the postie. So the third tool, the last tool I'm going to share with you, I realise that I'm coming to the end, is EFT. Now, EFT is a technique that includes old and new. So it involves tapping on acupressure points at the same time as literally tapping. Sorry, my postie is now actually knocking at the door, wanting to come in to give me a sorry, I'm totally distracted right now. Can you, they're not moving. Oh, sorry, can I take 1 minute just to get.
Fine, Gillian, go and talk to the post. Great. So whilst Gillian is talking to the postie, I wonder if you can think of any particular questions that you would like covered during the panel after our next speakers. So do think about any questions that you might have, and yeah, jot them in chat. And certainly one of the questions that I've got is, you know, how much does all this work with children actually, the working with children and young people, how much of it working on ourselves? You know, can we really do this work with children, you know, and not work on it? Susie, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that whilst.
Yeah, you know, Wendy, I think that's really important, because anything that I pass on and share is that if we take care of ourselves, we're able to provide a service to children, and then they're able to learn. So it's that the completeness of the connection. So yeah, definitely take care of ourselves, and then we can be of service to others.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you. Gillian, I was just saying that, you know, one of the questions people might have is how much working with children and young people is actually working on ourselves. But if you want to just kind of carry on, that would be grand. Thank you.
Thank you. She was shouting at me through the window. Anyway, yeah, I'm back. So the EFT, it is all about dissolving negatives. So it's dissolving negative emotions, it could be a pain, chronic pain. And it is a really, really useful tool that I use on babies. I've used it on my grandchildren, where I tap as they're crying, trying to get to sleep. I've used it with toddlers all the way through to my mum. So it's very simple to use. And we're going to do a short practice, if I may. So often what I do is there's lots of different, it's like yoga in the sense there's lots of different kinds of yoga. There's lots of different kinds of tapping. But right now, when I've just got a few minutes, this is what we're going to do today. Because I want you to experience, including the 16 guidelines and the mindfulness. So taking a moment, feet on floor, coming to the breath. And I would like you to look back over the last few days, maybe the last week. And I would like you to notice a time where you felt that you maybe let yourself down, and that the compassion that you try to embody, the positive mindset or the resilience, maybe wasn't there. And I want you to notice how that feels. And as you come, open your eyes. If you've had your eyes closed, come back into the space. That you might be feeling a sense of heaviness in your heart. You might have an emotion or a word that you feel guilty, let down. I don't know, whatever it is. But I want you to give yourself a number 0 to 10, 0 being everything is well, and 10 is you're feeling extremely guilty, which I hope we're somewhere in the middle at the lower end. And today we're going to include generosity. So I'm just going to give one round just as a little example. So repeat after me. Even though I regret what happened, and if you can say it to yourself, it is actually the speaking that helps. I love and accept myself and choose generosity. Even though I regret saying what I did or doing what I did, whatever it was, I love and accept myself and I choose generosity. Make sure you're breathing in and out, even though I let myself down. I love and accept myself and choose generosity. And then we tap round the points. I let myself down. I feel guilty. And whatever words or emotions you feel, just say them. I feel a heaviness in my heart. I regret what happened. Underneath, sorry, I should be explaining what I'm doing. Underneath the eye, underneath the nose, I regret what happened. Underneath the lip, I let myself down. And then we find the collarbone just in the middle underneath. I regret what happened. And then one hand on the opposite shoulder and tapping underneath the arm at that point. I let myself down. I have a heaviness in my heart. And breathe out. Then when you check back in, just check your number, or check if there was a heaviness in your heart, check that heaviness and just see if it has begun to disperse. Now you would do that sort of going back into what happened, always tapping on the negative, because that's what we want to dissolve, but always balancing it with I love and accept myself. And today we were using generosity, so be generous with yourself. So that is a whistle-stop tour of the tools. I would like to finish with a little bit of a quote from a beautiful book that I would like to share. It's a lovely, lovely book. And today I called the beginning of my talk, I had the seed of compassion. And it was just lovely because in this book, Dalai Lama talks about his mother in the very beginning. From the time I was very young, my mother planted in me the seed of compassion by the example she set. And that comes back perhaps to what, Wendy, you were talking about when I was gone. She raised me on a diet of love. And then at the very end, and again, I feel when he talks of children, he talks about all of us. And he says at the very end of this book, I have many responsibilities in my life, but helping to make the world a more compassionate place is the most important one. We cannot change the past. We can only learn from it. Otherwise, it is beyond our control. But the future we can change. And as children, you already have the tools needed to build a happier world, a better world, a compassionate world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gillian. Thank you. And I'm amazed at your courage. You know, that whole Namaste song, that really took courage. I really, you know, rejoice. And I love the emphasis you put on relationships and on, you know, asking us all to connect visually and just modeling what you do with young people. And I love the whole image of getting them to light fires and then the gradual melting as people use your methods and the trust builds. So yeah, thank you so very much. And before I introduce the next people, may I invite you please all to move, to stretch in whatever way your body needs. Stand up, walk around, do what you need. Try and look away from the screen. So yeah, you're not always fixated on one point. And whilst we're stretching, I'd like to welcome to our next presentation, 3 people in Australia, Venerable Lekdron, Tanya Wiggins and Andrea Furness. And they have agreed to share the nonviolent communication methods that they introduced to their school curriculum in Australia. So it's going to be, I think, Andrea speaking first, then Lekdron, and then Tanya. So over to you 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Share my screen.
Lovely. I feel very grateful to be on in this run of the evening. For us, it's the evening. I feel like we've benefited from all these lovely practices today, so I'm feeling a little bit less nervous. Thank you very much. So welcome everybody to Australia, to the Daylesford Dharma School session. And we're here now at the school, and we're on the traditional land of the Dja Dja Wurrung people, who have held custodianship of this country for over 60,000 years. And we here, as the current custodians of this land, pay respect and gratitude to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And our motivation for being here today is to water the seeds of compassion and wisdom in our children and in our communities, in the hope that this will ripple out and create benefit for all sentient beings. To start our session, I would like you to join me in the mindfulness spell practice that's in the tradition of the Plum Village Buddhism tradition. It's an engaged Buddhist tradition that's been created by the wonderful and sadly now deceased Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. And this is a form of Buddhism that we share a lot of common practices with in our school. And particularly this practice of the mindfulness spell is the way that we begin each day. And additional to this practice, the children will place their hands on their heart. And it's also a practice that we engage to mark different intervals of the day. But we definitely, before we commence learning each day, we all come together with the mindfulness spell practice. So by tuning your hearing sense to the sound of the bell and tuning then your awareness into your breathing, we enjoy this wonderful moment of breathing together. So first, I'd like you to bring your attention to your posture and just feel your feet on the ground. And bring your awareness to your buttocks and feel how they're supporting your whole body. Pay some awareness to your spine. Allow it to be tall and relaxed. And let the head be gently floating on top of the spine. So by tuning now your listening sense into the sound of the bell and breathing, we can enjoy these present moments together. So take some very deep, slow, calm breaths. Really feel the body. As I lead you with the Bellmaster's poem. Take a slow, calm breath in and bring your body, speech, and mind into perfect oneness. And now breathing out, send your heart along with the sound of the bell. And on the next breath in, may the hearers awaken from forgetfulness. And on the breath out, may they transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow. And when you're feeling ready, open your eyes, maybe wiggle your toes, bring yourself clearly into this present moment and stay in that flow of mindfulness that we've created by just breathing and bringing presence to our body. I'm Andrea Furness, the current principal and co-founder of the Daylesford Dharma School. And I must declare that it was not really my idea to start a school, but that was what eventuated when I went to visit a very wonderful Tibetan Buddhist Geshe called Geshe Konchok Sering to ask him for some quite specific advice. And I was very much shocked when he gave me very, very different advice than what I expected I'd receive. And he pretty much turned my life journey around 180 degrees when he said, "Oh, that's all really great, Andrea, what you want to do. But you know what you really need to do is to open a Buddhist primary school in Daylesford." So I was completely shocked, and there were a myriad of questions that flowed through me around, was it even legal to start a school? How would I find the funding? Many, many things arose, but it seemed that over a period of time, the school actually took control of me in a sense and helped me along the way to establish itself. And in 2009, we opened as a registered Buddhist philosophical school with government funding with just 15 students. And we began this amazing journey into what Geshe Konchok said was providing an inner education for students without ignoring the external aspects, so that what would set the Daylesford Dharma School apart from the other many excellent schools that are in existence in Australia was that we would train the children and pay particular attention to their internal resources, and that would be the main focus of our teachers, and that they do this without ignoring the very important external parts of education that absolutely must be delivered in a school as well. And I think it's also important to remember that back in 2009, the ideas of providing student well-being, social and emotional learning, resilience, all these aspects were not really considered part of the main curriculum. And we were considered to be quite alternative to be doing this. And now I find ourselves in this very pleasant situation where more and more that is the agenda that schools are needing to get on board with. And we feel very lucky because we're now in the 14th year of our school. And so we've developed a very special Dharma way of teaching the Australian curriculum through an approach that's based on compassion and wisdom. And one of our ways that we develop the inner resources of our children to be kind and wise and to be confident to contribute to the communities that they live in is through the awareness program, which is our daily 30-minute inquiry into the Buddha's teachings and the awareness practices, which our learning manager will speak about very soon. It's this awareness program that came to us from a very wonderful teacher called Dick Jeffries, who was the principal of the Maitreya School in Bodh Gaya in India. And just before he died, he gifted this wonderful outline of an awareness program curriculum, and his family really helped to deliver those resources into our school. And that is the resource that Tanya, our wonderful learning manager, an incredible team of teachers across many years have really developed as this very central part of what we do that sets the mind into the space for learning each day. From day one, when I was investigating how to establish a Buddhist school, it just seemed so clear to me that if the Buddha was synonymous with peacemaking and actually stood as a symbol of peace, then we really needed to teach conflict resolution. And also Geshe Konchok said to me, Andrea, trouble is coming. And what are you going to do when trouble comes? And this sort of filled me with an existential terror because I wasn't very good at conflict resolution. And I thought, I'm going to really need something to help me to guide the school. So it was quite incredible for me when the language and the method of nonviolent communication crossed my path. And I suddenly became aware this is a wonderful resource that we can use to bridge in our curriculum and our Dharma way to actually support the well-being and the social harmony of our school and sort of bring us together with a tool for how we speak to each other when the going gets tough and people are not very regulated. And so it's been a very wonderful thing for us. And I'd like now to hand over to the Venerable Lekdron, our school patron, and our nonviolent communication facilitator in our community, who will tell you a little bit more about nonviolent communication.
What is the echo? Thank you very much, Andrea. And I just want to thank you, FCDW, for this wonderful opportunity to connect with a fabulous group of people who are bringing the messages of compassion and wisdom to a group of people, young children, giving them a lot of hope. And I'm so heartened to hear words like neurodivergent and trauma, supporting those kinds of conditions and providing such tools. So I want to start by giving a little bit of background about where I came across nonviolent communication tools. I was born in Sri Lanka, then I left Sri Lanka when I was 21 years old, lived in various countries, came to Australia, and having met Tibetan Buddhism, I was born a Theravadan Buddhist, and having ordained in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, I returned to Sri Lanka. So I found the environment very challenging because they are not familiar with Tibetan Buddhism. So they were challenged by me. I was challenged by the new conditions in the country I left some 25 years ago. They have had a 30-year civil war, so conditions have drastically changed. And I was sharing my difficulties with a friend who happened to be the chaplain at the Dalesford Dharma School. And she said that she'd found this amazing tool called Nonviolent Communication. Perhaps that might help me also. Within a very short period, I came across a training program that was happening in Sri Lanka. So I was able to quickly enroll in that and do a 10-day nonviolent communication training. So what I learned through that is that from where I was, that tending to my needs in a gentle way, making requests and being authentic and honest about what I need is as much a support and freeing as letting them go. Because if you've come from trauma-based cultures or backgrounds, childhoods, and if you are a neurodiverse, we already have a lot of judgment and criticism about ourselves. So to bring a more compassionate lens and look at what our needs are, and then find strategies that are not rigid, we can negotiate then strategies to meet our needs. And I found that having needs is very human. And our various rigidness and our stubbornness about how we are going to meet our strategies was what was causing trouble. So this was very empowering and freeing, and it has really given me a chance to be more authentic. And in my Dharma practice, it has really given me a different level of understanding and being able to generate a level of compassion for myself and also people who have difficulties, or when we don't see eye to eye, it has given me a different frame of reference to see that as well. So when the opportunity came then through my friend, who was the previous chaplain at Dharma School, and then of course through Principal Andrea, who we have known each other for a while, for me to come and practice and share my NVC with the school, I was really stoked, because it was a Dharma-based school, and then there is the tools that I can share that I was passionate about by then. So we know that children need more than literacy and numeracy, as important as they are. Several previous speakers shared that making connections and finding meaning in what they learn, and to be able to solve their own problems. And, these deep connections that they take through to adulthood, that is what gives them leads to a more fulfilling life as an adult. So just want to share in a very brief way, because NVC is actually quite an extensive, deep kind of practice, very compatible with Dharma, because in Buddhism, we say that 4 ways of not to speak. Communication is very important. So, when children learn that they are listened to and they can express themselves clearly and they are understood, it builds resilience in them. It builds positive emotions rather than negative ones. So that's very hugely a contributing factor in that. NVC talks about 4 different processes, 4 simple processes. So we are looking at any given situation when there is a disagreement or some incident has happened that it's been challenging. We normally tend to tell a story, and all our emotions are caught up in that. All our feelings are in the story that we tell ourselves and others. So it encourages us to look at the whole scenario as a mere observation. So when we can say that it's like watching a video. How did this pan out? If we're just watching a video, how might we describe it? And then the second step is, beneath that observation, when we are recalling it, what is actually coming up? What are the feelings that's arising? Even if the incident has happened a little while ago or months ago, what is present now? And then we can investigate to see what needs are behind these feelings. If anger is arising, if sadness is arising, if loneliness is arising, whatever the feeling, what are my needs? And then we can look at what kind of strategies can we find? Can we make a request from another person? If we don't have that freedom, can we make a request from ourselves? So that is kind of the process we follow. So to keep it simple with the children, we have got this this process called the peace table. If they have had something that there has been a conflict among themselves, we gather them to the peace table. And now they are very familiar with this process. So they actually instigate the they request peace table process. So rather than me going on about how it works, we are actually going to show you something we have cooked before. So this is actually not something that we have captured as it was happening. It's a role play. So I think, I hope you get a better understanding.
And the children very much enjoyed making this too. And they did sort of base it off things that, are likely to happen. So it's kind of some of their lived experience, I guess. So hopefully Can everyone hear the audio?
Ziggy, no, not how you do it. You have to do it like this, not like that. What even is that? That is so terrible. That is not how you do it at all. I mean, what the hell, Ziggy? You can't do that. Why are you crying?
Stop it, Lily. You're being too hard on him. Maybe he just has a different way of doing it than you do.
He does have a different way. He does it the wrong way, okay? So you can stay out of this and keep your nose out of our business. And I was helping him, so thank you, Aurora. You can go now.
Well, it looks like everyone's upset now, so maybe we should go and have a peace table.
Fine. Well, I was only trying to help you. I didn't mean to, hurt your feelings. I just got frustrated because you were doing it wrong. And if you do it wrong, you could, ruin the bow buns.
Well, I got angry when Lily was yelling at Ziggy.
Lily, can you tell me when you came over and spoke to Ziggy in that way, what were you going through? What were you feeling?
I was a bit worried that Ziggy was going to ruin the bow buns and that they were going to turn out bad because he was doing it wrong. And so I thought that I needed to step in and stop him from doing it like that, or they were going to be ruined.
Okay, so you were a little bit worried, and doing a good job is important to you.
Yeah.
Hearing what Lily's explanation, what she has explained, how do you feel now about what happened?
Well, I feel that I know now, I understand that some people can be very particular about how you do certain things.
Yeah. And I'm sorry if I came across mean, but I just didn't want you to ruin it.
How do you feel, Ziggy, now? How do you feel in yourself now?
I feel kind of good because I know that I was doing it wrong, and I know I was doing it in a way that might have not worked. So now I know what to do, or I know something else to do next time in a way that might work a bit better.
Yeah. Sorry for being so rude to you.
Aurora, can you tell us what you have learned?
Well, I've learned that even though they might look that they're doing something a bit mean, they might have the right intention in heart. And I've also learned that I feel very strongly about people respecting other people and being kind.
Okay.
Wonderful. So how do you feel? Do you need a moment before you return to the class? Do you need anything else that you need to discuss?
I'm okay. You guys?
I feel good. I feel I'm okay as well.
I feel good.
Okay, cool. Let's be
great.
friends. Oh, no, very nice.
Back to you, Lekdron.
So the video is running a little late. I think there's a little lag. They do hug each other and make up before they return to the class. So we are waiting for that to happen. But in the meantime, I want to show our lovely giraffe, and the jackal. So this nonviolent communication talks about connecting language that the giraffe uses. I won't explain details about giraffe and jackal, but the jackal is uses the more disconnecting language, like demanding, diagnosing, thinking that deserving, and denial of responsibility. So we are trying to get away from those 4 disconnecting ways of speaking to a more connecting way of speaking. And the whole idea is to actually be in the present. Intention is always to connect, and attention is always to be in the present. So I'm not going to explain much more about the compassionate communication because I can go on all day. Usually the trainings are, as with every other modality, many days. But I just kind of remembered that I want to answer one of the questions that had come up. Wendy mentioned that people were saying, when you work with children, or when you work with others in any way, does that actually force you to look at your own, does that contribute towards your own development? When I returned to Sri Lanka, I came across that sexual abuse has increased, 100-fold. And I started working with abused girls in girls' shelters. And at some point, I was really overwhelmed by the whole process. And I went to my Tibetan teacher, Kadrala Rinpoche, and I said, look, I'm working with these kinds of girls and I'm really out of my depth. Can I just stop it? And to my amazement, she said, no, it's a very beneficial thing to do, but just know your limits. That's all she said. And that was 5 or 6 years ago. And through that, I have really learned so much about myself and have had to, I learned about my own trauma through learning with the other girls, working with the girls, and given so much insight to deepen my own, my own life and my knowledge, and contributed so much to my own happiness. So yes, we do. It forces us to look at ourselves by working with others, whether it's children, but particularly children. But it's such an enriching and rewarding experience. So I want to leave you here with just a very small exercise. If we still have time, 1 or 2 minutes. I have observed within my own life, when you take the whole of the learnings of the nonviolent communication, what trips me up time and time again is my judgments. So I would like us to take a moment to just see if there is anything that judgment that we hold at this moment within ourselves. Take a minute now to see if we can transform it, to dissolve it, or find a way to reframe that as a statement. So I'm inviting you to just connect with your body, connect with yourself, and just take a moment to check in within you. If there is any judgment, it can be about yourself. It can be as simple as, oh gosh, I'm so hopeless at technology, or I'm really nervous, I can't do any public speaking at all, I'm a nervous wreck. Or it could be something about others, like, oh gosh, the planet is in a terrible situation. And really, people don't care. People just don't care. They're very fickle. Just see if you can connect or bring up a statement like that. And just see how you feel when you say it to yourself. What does your body feel like? even though we are doing this in a quick way, if you possibly can, I'm asking you to just bring compassion, sort of inquire about what is your need underneath this statement, whatever statement that you're working with, whatever judgment you're working with. What do you need at the moment? When I say the world is in an awful place, people don't care, I think my need is for safety and reassurance and stability and certainty. So we hold that our need, if you've been able to connect with the need, with openness and kindness towards ourselves. Our beautiful need, just how human it is. Connecting with this with tenderness and compassion. And just see if your body is now changing with the application of your attention of love and compassion. Is there a shift within your body? So I hope there has been a slight or some change in whatever judgment you were working with in these few moments. And I'd like to hand over with this by reconnecting with each other, opening your eyes. And connecting with each other. I'm inviting Tanya now to share the rest of the presentation about the school.
Wendy, I think, are we out of time? Is that the...
You're fine. You've got 6 minutes.
Oh, okay, great. Can everyone see the screen there? Thank you, Venerable Lekdron. Can everyone see the feelings and needs? Is that up on the screen at the moment? Oh, good.
Yes.
Good. Okay, I'm on the right one. That's really great. So my name's Tanya and I'm the learning manager at the Alpha Dharma School. So Andrea mentioned that we have an awareness program that runs for the first explicitly for the first half hour of every day. So whilst it is only the first half hour of every day, it actually permeates everything that we do at the school. So we might have moments of mindfulness throughout the day when we need to. We might do the bell of mindfulness throughout the day as well. So we explicitly teach that in that first half hour, different values and different tools and techniques that we can use to be able to engage with mindfulness. But it happens throughout the day. So in our awareness program, we have a whole term that is dedicated to social harmony. And in that social harmony inquiry that we do, we explicitly teach those processes of nonviolent communication with the children, as you saw them giving a little bit of a demonstration of before. And we also unpack why compassionate communication is so important to our own and others' happiness. And NVC has actually been implemented across our whole school. So it permeates the culture of the school community and it really provides a framework for us to be able to work with conflict and find some resolution and connection. It allows that connection to flourish in our community as well. So some of those benefits, I won't go through all of them on the screen there. You can see those, but I guess one of the key things in terms of building resilience is understanding that, you know, conflict can actually be resolved. Conflict can be engaged with in a really respectful way. And often when we speak with the children, you know, they see conflict as being, you know, this really big and scary thing, and that they need to avoid it at all costs. But when they actually recognize that, you know, there will be conflict, you know, we know that in our lives, we're going to disagree with people, we're going to see things differently from others, but there is actually a peaceful process that we can use to be able to resolve some of those conflicts that we might have. And one of the key things that we've found in working with the NVC process with children is the profoundness of just that first step in the process of pure observation. So what is it that actually happened? And, you know, often that is the first part of the conversation that we facilitate with the children is, okay, well, what do you think happened? And what do you think happened? And those two recollections can actually be poles apart. So being able to support the children to think, oh, if a drone or a bird was flying that situation right then, what would they have seen? And it just sort of prompts them to go, oh, actually, oh, this is actually what happened. Or one of the children might have misinterpreted what had happened, and then just hearing the other child say, oh, you know, I actually, you know, went to save you off the monkey bars and I accidentally tripped, and then that, you know, that pushed you over and I'm really sorry. You know, it helps them to really reframe and get you know, understand, I think, how important collecting the facts of what has happened before we start to blame and, you know, put our judgments onto things. So that's one of the key things that we really do, is to ask what has actually happened, so we can, you know, what are the facts? We lose the ego, and then once we've tried to kind of tame that ego a little bit, we're able to engage in a much more positive way with the process. It builds that emotional literacy as well. So being able to identify our feelings and put a name to some of those feelings as well. So we work quite a bit with the work of Dan Siegel in looking at that name it to tame it kind of framework there as well. And we know that emotional literacy is really important for children in being able to create these opportunities for peace when they can really deeply connect with what's actually happening for me and why might this be happening. So as pointed out before, you know, thinking about what that unmet need might be. And it creates that mutual space for growth through that shared practice. And it's not just a process that we use with the children, it's a process that staff engage with as well. So if there's disagreements that we might have as a community and a learning community, we support each other through this process. It helps with the way in which we're thinking about things too. So am I thinking about this situation using really strong judgment language? Or am I really thinking about, you know, again, just focusing on those pure observations of what actually did happen? And that can help us, you know, to bring us back into that space as well. So it's not something we teach to the children, it's something we learn alongside the children through engaged practice. We practice it in our staff meetings. So we actually start each staff meetings with a feelings and needs check-in. And what we find that does is it actually enables us to be really able to get a sense of how are each of us traveling? You know, is there a further check-in that I might need to do with someone and just, you know, check, are they okay? You know, is everything happening all okay for them? And what do they need? Can we support some of those needs as well? And also, you know, what can we each do to support our own needs as well? So how do we advocate for ourselves as well as advocate for each other? Part of compassionate communication in our community is we do staff training. So Venerable Lekdron takes us for NVC training at the beginning of the year, and we run through a full day program. And then we have intermittent training throughout the year as well. Our parents are offered training as well in NVC. And we also articulate that peace table process for children, staff and parents so that everyone's really aware that we have this beautiful space that we can come to where we get an opportunity to really try and resolve what is going on for us, depending on what you know, what that situation is. Just a note on that, we would never bring the children to the peace table in that flurry moment of being dysregulated. We actually support regulation first, and then we invite the children to that space at the peace table. So it is a collaborative decision to be able to come to that space and be able to work through things. And it's really rare that children, you know, don't want that opportunity to kind of mend those friendships and, you know, support that peaceful process, because they all know it feels great, you know, when things are going well and you know, things are happening for us. Wendy, how much time have we got?
Afraid we are out of time now.
No worries, no worries. So I can share this with the PowerPoint with people at a later stage. I can send that to you, Wendy or Angela, but we just have a last video of our children leading a meditation. So that's part of what we teach at the school, is by the time they get to grade 5, 6, which is our Noble Guides class, that they're very comfortable to lead whole community in meditations, and in actual fact they relish being able to lead meditations for lots of people. So I can share that with you if people were interested in that. But thank you so much for having us to talk about what we do. It's been fantastic, so thank you.
Tanya, just out of interest, how long is the meditation that the students lead?
It's 3 minutes, so a bit long. Yeah, maybe a bit long.
Well, please pass on to them that we will be watching it. An international audience will watch it. And yeah, I look forward to seeing that at a later date. If you could stop sharing the screen, that would be grand. And thank you so much to the Dalesford School, to Venerable Lekdron, Andrea, Tanya. And whilst I'm speaking, I do encourage everybody to stretch, to really stretch, to look away from the screen. And I just really was pleased that Andrea mentioned the way the school took control of her, and I'm sure many of us recognize that phrase, that our work just takes control of us. I also really relished that Andrea you know, gave honor to the wonderful Geshe Konchog and the amazing Dick Jeffries, who was the first chair of the board of FDCW and the founder of the Maitreya School in Bodh So all honor to Dick Jeffries and his legacy. I can honestly say that many of us would not be here working for FDCW if it wasn't. In fact, I'm not even sure FDCW would exist if it hadn't been the dedicated work of Dick all those years ago. So I hope you're still stretching. I hope you're looking somewhere else and your eyes are relaxed. I hope you're drinking some water or other liquid. And we now have time for questions. So please, I encourage you all, either raise your hand or write in chat. These amazing people who've given so much of us, so many ideas. I mean, I love the idea of starting staff meetings with a feelings and needs check-in. I think many of us focus on feelings, but actually being able to verbalize the needs, that part of the NVC process, I think, is quite quite revolutionary, the way it helps us to really acknowledge what our real needs are. So if you do have any questions at all, I don't see anything in chat, don't see any hands raised at the moment. So that I'll give you a moment to think. So in which case, I wonder if any of you have any recommendations for working with your ideas within the education system, as well as working separately from the established system. To take a go at that. Many of us have projects that we do outside of the traditional education system, you know, like Brailsford School, like, you know, a lot of the things you do, Gillian, and you have also experience of working within. So I don't know if anybody has any comments on working both within and without of the traditional educational system. Go for it, Susie. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think this is, for me, the education system and the challenges that we all experience in the education system and the healthcare system and the social care system. But it's this idea that one size fits all. And we have a classroom of, you know, 20 to 30 different characters. And the concerns that I have are that the system is that for the children that are finding it difficult, and the neurodivergent children find it difficult, the lights, the noise of the bells, the relationships, and then obviously they become dysregulated and have meltdowns. But the response then is to punish those children, to send them home because they're not fitting into the box. And I guess that's, you know, that's the journey that we need to go on in the school structure. How do we develop and evolve from how maybe I was taught? And I know there has been lots of changes in the education system. But again, it's for the teachers to understand that there isn't this, and they do, of course they do, you know, this one size that fits all, but they have constraints of they have to meet targets. So it's all the pressures that are on them. But yeah, in my experiences with all the young people, there are some young people that can't fit in to the school environment, and it's how do we address that?
Anybody else on that point? So, for instance, at Brailsford School, do you try and work with any state schools as well, or are you working purely in the school?
We do have, I guess we don't work directly with other state schools, but we do, part of a lot of our inquiry units, we try to sort of dovetail in, and where we can, actually do learning together. And I think that one of the things that that does for our school is because we're so small, like often we've, you know, there's sort of, you know, 4 or 5 students in each grade. So it really just sort of helps our children to connect up with others. And interestingly, one of the, like when our grade 6s go off to high school, they came back this one particular year, and one of the students came back and just said, I can't believe how mean everyone is. And so it was really a revelation for them. And so we were able to talk through that with them and to say, well, you know, how are you helping to bridge that? And how are you helping to bring peace into that scenario? And they're like, oh, we're actually giving advice to people about how they could, you know, mend that relationship, and, you know, did they really mean that? And, you know, like, so it was so interesting to get that feedback from our students moving into like a regular secondary school in Australia, coming from a very small school where those values are lived every day with our students and modelled every day with the students, for them to recognise that, but then also recognise how they can be part of making the change within their friendship groups with those values as well. So it was kind of lovely for us to go, yeah, we're actually doing something right. So it was, you know, it was quite amazing. Yeah. Andrea, did you want to add anything to that?
I think, Tanya, it might be worth you talking about the educare approach just really briefly, and that idea of inclusivity in the classroom and the big challenge that teachers have by trying to accommodate in their normal program that allowance for neurodivergence, and how they might set their classes up and strategies that they might use so that we're not so much exiting students, but we're actually accommodating and bringing conscious strategies as well for the children that are mentored by the teachers and followed through within the classroom. Would you like to talk about that a bit, Tanya?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess, as just building on what Andrea said, when, you know, a number of years ago, like, you know, that was one of our strategies, was to, you know, exit a child from that space, and they calmed down outside of that space. And, you know, often that would mean going to the office and, you know, chatting with our amazing office person, Rosie, who was a wonderful set of ears for them to chat with. But one of the things that we realized was that by doing that, it was actually isolating them from that space, and it then wasn't creating that connection with the teacher, which, if I think about, you know, what Gillian was talking about, that relationship is just so incredibly crucial, because the teacher is actually, you know, the person who's most likely to be there when that child needs support with regulation. And we've spent a lot of time not on self-regulation, but working with co-regulation. And the reason that we've put a lot of energy into that is because we've recognised over the years that, you know, these skills are not inherent. You know, children aren't born with these amazing self-regulation skills. And, you know, we were having this narrative sometimes about, you know, they just need to self-regulate. And then we recognise, you know, that they don't actually have the tools to self-regulate. So how can we be that bridge for them? And so part of that educare approach that we have is really putting that, you know, that self-care and bringing in those mindfulness tools to support regulation, using the NVC language to enable us, you know, in those times of when we're feeling frustrated as educators, you know, in any moment, which we're all human and we all have those moments, to actually be able to use NVC to say, look, I just need to stop us at the moment. You know, I'm noticing, you know, these things, and it's making me feel worried because, you know, I'm wanting everyone to be able to learn at their best. And at the moment, you know, there's so much noise or whatever is happening that, you know, I'm worried that that's not happening. So, and my need is this, you know, how can we solve this? So we actually use that language to create that bridge rather than, you know, everyone sit down and be quiet and, you know, do what you're supposed to do. You know, and things like introducing social stories. So, you know, we've introduced a lot of those tools around inclusive strategies to be able to ensure that, you know, all of you, because we all access our regulation tools differently. And so it's been really great to be able to incorporate some of those things into things like social stories and our visual timetables, and you know, you having those visuals on the walls where children have little avatars and they're able to put where they're at first thing in the morning. So how am I feeling today? And be able to, you know, express that in a way that's not verbal either. So we're trying to kind of bring in more ways that children are able to let us know where they're at and what they need, without needing to have the verbal skills to be able to do it necessarily.
Thank you, Tanya. Gillian.
I just wanted to come in. I think Hilary mentioned earlier or asked about how to share this with parents. And I think it's not just the parents, it's when you're working in a school where maybe not all the staff are on board as well. And I always worked with what I called my drip method. And I think that's what I still hold close to me, is just that if I can continue to drip wherever I go, that eventually there'll be a ripple. But it is a huge challenge, because when I offer the parent sessions and the staff sessions, often the parents who you would really love to be there are not going to be there. And likewise with staff, there are certain members of staff that will be very reticent, and it will take a long time. And that it is a huge challenge. But I just think every time, I'm very privileged to go in and out of lots of different schools, and within the schools, lots of different classrooms. And what keeps me going, if you like, are those moments when you feel that, yes, what you're doing is going to ripple on through the year. And you just hope that the little drip that you've given elsewhere, just like the seeds, the seeds are there, and when the conditions are right, they'll flourish. But that is, for me, that is a huge challenge. It's the staff who are not on board, and the parents who have got too much else on in their lives to be on board as well. We can keep trying.
I mean, Susie, in answer to Hilary's question, your main role is educating the parents. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, definitely. And I also want to say I'm very passionate about the support that we're given, and what I want to say about the system is that for children or anyone that's going through trauma, whenever they are in certain, so you have children that have neurodivergence or who are neurodivergent, they would do a lot of masking. So they're like little containers, and in a school environment, they're pretending or they're masking to be so when they get home, it's almost the experience that I've had over the years, it's almost like a big explosion happens, and then they take all their emotions out on their parents or carers, and then the parents and carers don't know what to do with to help them to regulate or to manage meltdowns. So a lot of what I would do is to support the parents in their role. The advice from the system, if a young person's kicking off, is to phone the police. So I've had a lot of families that the way that they've been used to dealing with their children is then to phone the police. Me building up that relationship with the parents and the carers is to be able to say to them, like, instead of phoning the police, phone me, and we'll work our way through this, because by that time I've built up a relationship with the family, which it's the relationship and the connection is what's going to make the change, not the police taking the child away. So it seems to be that, yeah, we need to evolve and grow in a much more therapeutic way.
Thank you, Susie. Yeah. There's so much more that we could focus on. Barbara, you mentioned something like the Berry Street program. You say is integrating all over the schools in Australia. I'll have to look that up. I don't know if any of our speakers want to comment on that. Maybe the people from Daresford School.
There's a great book on the Berry Street model that you can actually get, and it takes you through each of the different modules that they have. So things like stamina and there's a whole range of different things that you can tap into. And the book's actually really helpful with lots of different techniques and ideas. So I'll see if I can find the picture. I can put it in the chat.
It's just not quite accessible because it's an expensive program put together by a group of people for whom it doesn't have the ethos of spreading something that really promotes these kinds of values you've been talking about and practices, comes from a different origin. That's the sad part about it, but it's like the commercialization of what you've been saying. And it's like this. I want to just make that point a bit about the Buddhist psychologists who've marketed a lot of some of the deeper principles and knowledge. I mean, yes, we do have to make a living, but that's just a bit of a shame, really, because a lot of the time it then becomes inaccessible and it's seen in a different light. So I think what we're talking about is something that needs to be integrated in all schools, all curriculum. It has to be in hospitals, has to be everywhere. And we have to start to seed it in the children, because the older ones among us won't be here to do that. We can plant the seeds, because now that we've got war happening and we've had wars happening, children are not going to believe it unless we give them an experience of it in a very personal way, rather than when they grow up and they see what's happening around the world and get to understand just how shattered a view of humanity they have to deal with. So yeah, I mean, I think this is something you all are doing, in your respective ways, and I can only aspire to do in mine. So yeah, it's really good that we've come together and talked about these things, especially now. There's no other way to bring a bit of peace into the world, really, unless it starts in the heart of those little ones.
Thank you, Barbara. Do you want to put your camera on so we can see who's been speaking? If you're happy.
Yeah,
Thanks,
okay.
I noticed
I was kind of relaxing, so I was in the.
Yeah. Okay, we're over time. Pauline, I know comment, so thank you so much. Thanks, Barbara, for your comments. Pauline, thanks for your account of the meditation. That's great. And I'd like to thank all 5 of our presenters for your work. I feel uplifted. Learning from each other is the experiences have just been so supportive and caring and enriching. And so thank you for your time and your experience, sharing your experiences and your insightful replies to all the questions. So it's been inspirational to hear from you all. And thanks to everyone in the audience for joining and for listening. As we all know, FDCW is a non-profit entirely reliant on donations. You are invited to please consider making a donation on the FDCW website so we can continue to provide these kinds of experiences. I invite you to just come inwards, to notice how you feel. And if there has been benefit in us spending all this time together, may that benefit radiate out from our hearts, not just to the street we're in, the town or city we're in, the country we're in, but to the whole globe, the whole universe. May many benefit as a result of our time together. Thank you, one and all.